welcome on back to 430 Podcast. Glad to have you again. Missed a little bit last week because Kelsey was working on a tan somewhere south of here. Uh, so I hope you had fun. But before we get started, I do have an announcement for you guys. This will be my last podcast with 4th and 30. Just don't have the time for it anymore. So sorry about that to all of the listeners that like seeing my face. My bad.
That's
But
news to all of us.
yeah, figured I'd tell you guys on the podcast. So
Man,
yeah.
how are we going to replace you?
Uh,
Taking applications, I guess.
I can turn the camera on for the turkey and you just let it play. But
Be like
that'll
one of
be
those Big Mouth Billy fish. Just put one of those up in front of the camera and let it.
I actually I have one of those. It's back in Missouri, but I can get you one. All right. But we're gonna do the best and worst things so far from the NCAA tournament. And Kyler, best or worst things from the NCAA tournament so far before we get into the other. So Kyler, what do you got?
Well, I said it before the tournament, I'll say again. Big Ten had 9 teams in the tournament, and not one of them made it past the Sweet 16. And only 2 of them made it into the Sweet 16. So the biggest disappointment is obviously the Big Ten, and the biggest surprise is obviously the ACC. The ACC had 3 teams in the Elite Eight. All year the ACC is getting disrespected, and the Big Ten's being like, I think all of us in this room knew, but I feel bad for like Wake Forest, who probably should have been in the tournament. I mean, they didn't schedule a hard enough strength of schedule outside of the conference, and that's on them. But the blatant disrespect to the ACC all year is what kept Wake Forest out of the tournament. Any other year, a team that goes 13-7 in the ACC is a lock in the tournament. And UNC as an 8 seed, they've obviously proved that was disrespectful. Miami as a 10 seed, sorry Auburn, but you had to go up against a top 20 team in the nation in the second round. So I don't know. It's just I knew it deep down. I don't know who all did, but I just don't. ACC is usually the conference that's a little bit overrated. So it was kind of weird to see this year.
Take it even a step further. Before Duke and UNC played, people were saying UNC was on the bubble. Like, me and Kyler had a discussion a week before the season ended that said people were saying UNC was on the schedule or on the bubble because they didn't have a big enough win non-conference. And now they're in the Final Four. Like, that's a huge miss. And it was all year, like Kyler said. Everyone was talking about how bad the ACC was all year. And, I mean, obviously we were all wrong. And the Big Ten, UNC's one big win all year was everyone said their one big win all year was against Michigan in the ACC Big Ten Challenge, and now we see that the Big Ten wasn't even as good as everyone thinks it was, and
Like
the ACC
every
was
year.
better. Yeah, it's crazy just the perception by the national media of which conference is good.
And I don't know. I don't understand why the Big Ten is so hyped up every year. You know what I mean? Like, you would think that the ACC would be America's conference, but it seems like the Big Ten always is, and always has the most hype behind them and the most attention going into it. And
you think about the population that the Big Ten controls, though, it's pretty high. So you get a lot of eyes. Networks want to cater to those type of people. So I can kind of see it. But then Texas A&M, they got snubbed out of the tournament, and they lost the NIT last night on a game winner by Xavier with under 5 seconds left. So like, they obviously proved they were a better basketball team than probably the selection committee thought.
Yeah.
so,
and the selection committee has a very difficult job. I'm not picking on the selection committee, but the conference everyone was completely wrong. The Big Ten had how many teams that were 4 seeds or better? Like, I mean, Iowa's a 5 seed, so 5 seeds or better.
Yeah.
So, in my honest opinion, the Big 12 is what everyone thought the Big 10 was. They had 3 schools in that Elite Eight, I think, that got in. They had Texas Tech,
No, that's the
Kansas,
Sweet
Sweet
16.
16.
Sweet 16. But they had Texas Tech, Iowa State, and Kansas all in. Like, that is just as good as the Big Ten was, and you didn't hear a word about the Big 12 going into the tournament.
Yeah,
Texas-
Baylor kind of pooped their pants.
Yeah, Baylor did poop their pants. That's one I wasn't even thinking about. But
Well, the injury to one of Baylor's best players hurt them in the tournament, but Texas Tech plays Big Ten style basketball better than any Big Ten team.
mm-hmm. They
Texas Tech was a tough out for Duke, and they were a Final Four team 2 years ago. Texas
Yep.
Tech.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it couldn't be 2 years ago because
Or-
2020 didn't have one, so 3.
Well, yeah,
2019.
Two
tournaments
tournaments ago.
Yeah.
And to Kyler's point about Baylor, Auburn ran into Miami in the second round. Baylor ran into North Carolina, who obviously should have been better than an 8 seed.
Yep. Anyone else got anything? Big
Yep,
10, Big 12.
I mean, before we get too far off the subject, my big win was North Carolina's hire of Hubert Davis, already getting North Carolina to a Final Four in his first season. And because the ACC was so disrespected this year, everyone was talking about how horrible of a hire it was because they hired from inside, hired the assistant, and first year as the head coach, they're in the Final Four.
Yeah, I
We'll
think you
talk
saw
about
the
Final Four.
just about Hubert Davis, though. I think you saw the emotion that when he made that Final Four. There was probably halfway through the season, even though their record was pretty good, like it wasn't nothing to be ashamed of. There was probably a lot of pressure on him, and the way he turned that team around has been, the way they're playing basketball late in the season. That's where you find good coaches. That right there, that proves his ability as a coach.
Well, and what Roy Williams said about him in celebration of making the Final Four is everything you need to know. If Roy Williams has that much faith in Hubert Davis, you know he's the right guy for the job. He said something even along the lines of Hubert Davis is a better coach than he is, which
He said right now he's coaching better than I ever did.
yeah, which
So you're saying like at that time,
that's high
which is probably an
praise.
exaggeration, but
Yeah, exactly. And it's selfless of Coach Williams to say something like that, but it is very kind and shows the confidence that he has in Hubert.
obviously I'm very biased. But man, watching Roy Williams on the sideline, I love that dude.
Yeah.
I mean, probably the biggest part of that, regardless of UNC's having a great season, is how many recruiting battles did he just win by going to the Final Four in his first year?
Mhm.
Like
Yep.
that's going to be huge. You take over a program like that, and everybody's like, how's this going to be? But then you go to the Final Four your first year. He just won a lot of recruits by doing that. So
Yeah.
True.
right to their hands.
So on to my thing from the tournament is God bless his soul. There's things everyone knows. I hate the Dallas Cowboys. I hate Duke. I don't hate Coach K, but I hate Duke. I hate the Big Ten. I do not hate Gonzaga. I do not hate Mark Few. I think Mark Few is a great coach. But his team choked again. They choked again. Like, how many times can a Mark Few team coach before something has to change? And I by no means think Mark Few needs to lose his job. I'm not saying anything like that. But they've been a number one seed for 4 or 5 years in a row now, I think. They made one championship game. They lost in the Sweet 16 this year. And the championship game last year, his team played bad. It wasn't anything. It wasn't some bonehead decision Mark Few made. And then against Arkansas this year, the team they just got outplayed. And I don't think it was they weren't prepared or anything like that. It was nothing on Mark Few, but he's got to find out how to get his players locked in for the big games.
You know how he does that?
They've made
His school needs to sign an agreement with the Pac-12 to play basketball in the Pac-12 and get into an actual conference.
That is a very good point.
he's gotten to 2 national championships. They lost to North Carolina a few years ago as well.
Yep.
But I think, and you're not wrong. I don't think you're wrong by any means, but I also think how you're acting about this is it's a little bit harder than you're acting to win a national championship. Like you have to win 6 games. Um, I'm not saying they're not underachieving to an extent because they have so many 1 seeds, but also only one team wins a national championship every year. It's not easy to win a national championship.
And that's
I agree going to the Pac-12 would probably help get them a little bit more used to some stiffer competition, but at the same time, also Gonzaga's having the most success Gonzaga's ever had, and if
yeah.
they continue to have success, it'll be because of Mark Few.
So the thing that, and I'll speak to Duke because I watched them more than any team. The thing that got Duke prepared for this tournament. Now they are a little bit more important for them because they have such a younger roster. But it was all the close games that they played all year. They lost some of those close games in the regular season. They haven't lost them in the tournament because when you play those close games over and over and over, you start to figure out how you need to play those games. And Gonzaga doesn't get that in the regular season. They might play 1 or 2 big games at the beginning of the year, but when they get in conference play, there's really only one team that competes with them, and that hurts them come tournament time. It's the biggest detriment to their team.
Mhm.
Going to the Pac-12 would be. It's starting to become too late for Mark Few. He's been around a long time. He's not going to be around for very long, and he's had a great career. But I think it would really help their team come tournament time if they were playing those close games in conference
right.
play.
You're exactly right.
You
They've been
had to play UCLA on a Tuesday. Like, yeah, that's going to help your team out.
and
Yeah.
And you're right. They have been dominant for so long, but they've been dominant long enough now. He needs to get one to take that jump into the elite level of coaches.
For sure,
At
yeah.
an all-time elite coach is what I'm saying. Because Gonzaga's been dominant since they've been dominant for 10 years now, but they've been a good team since we were all in high school. I mean, they were making the tournament regularly when we were in high school. So,
Yeah,
you know,
just made strides
15
since then.
years now, they've been really good. But yes, you're right. They need to join another conference. Playing St. Mary's twice a year, it doesn't cut it. And San Diego State when Kawhi Leonard's there. But then the other thing is I will go back to saying with Kelsey saying that only one team wins it, is I agree with that, Kels. It's the same way I don't knock the Chiefs for losing a Super Bowl or knock LeBron James for his 6 finals losses. Like, only one team wins it. Like, it doesn't take away from Mark Few's excellence and how well of a program he's built and how dominant they are. But in order for him to get to that next level of all-time great coaches, he's got to win one. You can lose 5 as long as you win one to get into that conversation.
Agree.
Banner sang forever. All right. I guess since nobody brought it up, St. Peter's making the Elite Eight is just really cool. And yeah, they got spanked in the Elite Eight, but we all knew whenever they lost, it was going to be by 20 plus. Like, you know, it was going to happen, but it's still really cool. And then how about that coach immediately getting an offer at Seton
From his
Hall?
alma
Just like,
mater.
see y'all.
I didn't know that. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, he signed with
It
Seton
was literally
Hall
like
today
the
or
day
yesterday.
after, or the 2 days after they gave him an
It
offer.
was the day after, but at his introductory press conference, he introduced the whole St. Peter's team. I mean,
Yeah, they were all there.
Sam
All those
Hall,
players
yeah,
were there.
he's a class act, and he deserves that
Mhm.
opportunity, and he did the right thing.
So outside of the coach, Shaheem, like, that's a great story, getting to move up to a bigger program. Because, I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of their success was how well they were coached. But Doug Eddard is the story of that team. The one lone white boy on that team from Jersey City. The coolest stat of that whole tournament, 6th man, he had 1,400 Instagram followers going into the tournament. Last time I checked, he has 150,000 now. And his latest Instagram post was him eating Buffalo Wild Wings because he just got an NIL deal from Buffalo Wild Wings. So essentially, because their team snuck into the tournament and then had a magical Cinderella run that wasn't necessarily because not like Eddard was some superstar coming off the bench. He was a solid player for that team. But because of all these little pieces and puzzles, and now these players have the control in their hands with the NIL, Doug Edert is set for a long time, all because of this little tournament run and being such a lovable, mustached, ugly, mullet-wearing dude who can straight get buckets at that.
So yeah, St. Peter's eventually lost, but they eventually got beat by 20. But it still didn't look like the butt kicking that usually happens to a 15 seed that makes the second weekend. So it was something that no one's ever done before, and it's something that probably won't happen again for a very long time. And that's going to be theirs to remember.
Mm-hmm.
I think and this is no disrespect to St. Peter's, because I mean, they got to the Elite Eight, but I think the best thing about that team was they felt like they were outmatched and they were still beating teams. Like, they didn't feel like they should win the games, but they still found ways to win the games. They out-hustled people. It was a fun team to watch for sure.
Defensively, they were a thing of beauty to watch.
They
was
were
a
all
team.
over the place.
Yes, they sped you up, but they were under control. It was just fun to watch. But little side note is that in the tournament championship game, or their conference tournament championship game, they played against I can't pronounce it correctly, Quinnipiac or whatever it is, which is where Desi Jones from Hannibal plays, and Desi Jones was the leading scorer from Quinnipiac in that game. So
That's
a little
crazy.
Nemo kid played against St. Peter's right before their magical run.
I knew that their coach played with Kobe in the McDonald's All-American game. I did not know he was the player of the game. I just found that out.
I didn't know that either. That's news to me.
It was because of assists, they said, but he was the player of the game in Kobe's McDonald's
I
All-American
told
game.
you there's never been a kid that he's ever coached that has not heard that story, and now it only makes more sense of why they haven't heard that.
Yeah, every single kid's heard that story. I played with Kobe, and I was the MVP of the
It's like
McDonald's All-American.
we were 7th graders, and Terry Ahern was our football coach, and he brought in his Arena League football championship rings. Like, it's just like there's not a kid that he's coached that hasn't heard about that. But we're going to move on to the Final Four. And the first game we're going to talk about is the one that you three want to talk about, but the rest of the world doesn't. Duke UNC, the casual basketball watcher's nightmare. College basketball does exist outside of the 10-mile radius around Raleigh. I don't know if people understand that, but it does. So I hope both teams lose, regardless of Coach K's last year. I hope both teams lose. So you guys can go from there, because I'm not talking about it.
This is if it was possible to get a Cubs Cardinals World Series or the Yankees Mets World Series or a Cowboys and anybody Super Bowl. Like, this is what everybody wants to see. This is every college basketball fan's dream, because half of college basketball fans are either Duke or North Carolina fans. But that's what everybody wants to see. It's the game of a lifetime. I told Caitlin, we've had plans the last 4 weekends. We have plans the next 3 weekends. Luckily, we didn't have plans this weekend, because we wouldn't have had plans if we did have plans. Nobody who likes college basketball is going to miss this game. It's a storybook, possibly once in a lifetime game. It's never happened before. The only thing that could be better if it was for the national championship, and it happens to be Coach K's last year. Hubert Davis should bring Roy. Do what?
Coach K's last game.
Yes, Coach K's last game. And Hubert Davis should bring Roy Williams down to the bench for this game. But it's whatever.
Might as well get Dean Smith down there.
And Tyler Hansborough. Bring Tyler down. Put Shane Battier and Grant Hill on Duke's bench too. Just let it be a once in a lifetime game.
Michael Jordan going to be in the building too?
Oh, he's not missing that.
The ceiling is the roof.
The tickets for the Final Four just went through the roof, for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, watching Duke play against Michigan State and the way they won that game, watching them play Texas Tech, I mean, they beat 2 really good teams there and did it, after the first weekend we were talking about, Duke looks like they have a chance to win it all. It started smelling like destiny. Well, it still smells like destiny because they're playing North Carolina, but when Duke and UNC get together, it doesn't matter who's the favorite. Duke's probably the favorite. They're 4-point favorites. I think a lot of people would consider that they would probably win the game. But when Duke UNC to get together, you can throw all that out the window. And that's the one wild card to Coach K's run here in his final tournament. It's Duke UNC. I mean, I think Duke would rather play any team in this game. I think they'd rather play Kansas, who's probably, either the favorite or the second favorite behind Duke, just because it's Duke, North Carolina. And you can't say enough about it. You couldn't write this story in Coach K's final year, something that this would happen. So like Cody said, if you're a college basketball fan, you're watching. This game's going to break records for ratings.
So I saw a stat, the last 99 games, which, first of all, I want to clear this up. ESPN's been putting out a fake stat. Coach K is 50-47 all time against North Carolina. So unfortunately, North Carolina can't tie that up. But ESPN's been saying they're 50-49. In the last 99 games, it's 50 wins for Duke, 49 for North Carolina, and they're separated by 21 points. And every time these two teams play, there's crazy stats like that. Like, there's no other two teams that can play 100 times and have 21 points divide them in one. Every time it's a wild game. I remember plenty of times that North Carolina should have destroyed Duke, and Duke beat them.
And vice
Austin
versa.
Rivers hitting the three in Tyler Zeller's face, and vice versa. North Carolina should got their butts kicked and somehow beat Duke. I mean, you never know what you're going to get with this game. Throw everything out the window. It's gonna be a great game, and I know Carl's annoyed up there rolling his eyes,
He's
but
looking over here.
it doesn't. And potentially Coach K's last game, if North Carolina has the opportunity to put Coach K away in
For
the
the
Final
second
Four
time.
for his last game, that would be insane.
They won in his last game at Cameron Indoor. So it feels like all the magic's probably out the window by now, but they have the opportunity to knock him out in make it his last game too.
I'm a huge North Carolina fan, and I think North Carolina has a lot of talent. Duke plays 8 guys. North Carolina plays 5. Count it 6. I mean, North Carolina, Duke's the more talented team. Duke should win this game, but you never know what you're going to get.
I'm not betting on it, and I'm a betting man.
I wouldn't put any money on this game.
I don't care what the spread is.
This isn't probably going to be a stat that any of you are going to know, and I don't know it either. This isn't like a trick or anything. Aren't the ACC tournament games played in Greensboro?
They're played in Brooklyn this year.
They were played in Greensboro before.
They switched places. It used to always be in Greensboro.
So I wonder how many times Duke and UNC has actually played outside of North Carolina. Because Greensboro is also in North Carolina. I wonder how many times they played true neutral site away from their state.
Away from both fans.
Yeah.
Not very many.
Which Duke fans don't live in North Carolina. They go to Duke or they're graduated from Duke, but they don't live in North Carolina.
Before we move on to the next game, though, shout out Jeremy Roach. Duke would not be here without Jeremy Roach. For a year and a half, that guy couldn't figure out how to play at Duke at the Division I level, and he has slid into a true point guard role. He's gotten in the paint at will, and the biggest thing he's done for their team is guarding the pick and roll. He's going fighting over the screens now, and it's really helped Duke's 3-point defense, pick and roll defense. So shout out Jeremy Roach. If you haven't watched him play this tournament, he's been a thing of beauty to watch. Also, Caleb Love. That guy, I don't like North Carolina, but that guy is so fun to watch when he gets it going. He'll pull up from anywhere.
I've only watched Roach play 4 games now, and I know they've been probably his 4 best games of his or college career so far. But if I had to make that NBA comparison, he is the Division I basketball level of Kyrie, or equivalent of Kyrie Irving. He's very shifty, makes a lot of off-balance jumpers, finishes extremely well at the rim. I was watching the last game with Kyler, and we were talking about it, and I was saying, this Roach dude is good, and Kai gave me the backstory on that. He's really struggled for a year and almost 2 full years now at Duke, but you wouldn't know that watching him play in this tournament, and he has turned it on. He is really, really good. Or he's playing really, really good right now. Obviously, he goes to Duke. He is really, really good. And it's just exciting to see, I guess, as exciting as it can be for a friggin' Dookie to be playing well. That he's really found his niche here in the tournament.
It's exciting to watch anybody struggle like that for a year and a half, no matter what team they're on, and see them turn it on like that, especially for college kids.
All right. You guys satisfied?
Yeah, who y'all taking? I'm going with Duke, obviously.
I'm going with Duke.
Cody picked Duke in his tournament, so he's got to stick
I
with what he did.
picked a Duke
He
North
picked
Carolina
Coach K.
matchup, and you guys flamed
I told
me.
you. I told you were crazy.
Yes, and
For
so
those of you who can't read this, it says hashtag I hate Duke. I can assure you I'm not taking Duke in this game, no matter what.
I will have this on. I will have my North Carolina hat on. I will have my North Carolina zip up on over top of this. I will be screaming at the top of my lungs for North Carolina, but I'm not going to change my pick. I'm taking Coach K and Duke, and I hope at the end of the night my bracket is busted. Kelsey's got it all on deck for this.
All right. So we'll move over to the other game. There's some really interesting things in Kansas and Villanova. We get it, buddy. So the last 3 times Kansas and Villanova have played in the tournament, the winner of the game has won the national title. So that's kind of cool. And there's still 2 players around from the last time they played in 2018 when Nova won the championship. Colin Gillespie from Nova and then Mitch Lightfoot from Kansas are both still there. So that's kind of cool. And like another thing, these are 2. How long have we been in the one and done era? At least 20 years now, right?
15, 16.
Uh,
I don't know what yours.
I bet you
2005, 2006.
I bet you these are 2 of the most experienced teams to probably ever play in a Final Four against each
Those
other.
6.
So Jalen Coleman Lands has played in 170 games, which is the 3rd most in Division I history. Lightfoot has played in 166. Gillespie's played in 156. Jermaine Samuels 152.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
COVID.
Ajbaji has played in 120. Like, I mean, there's people that have played a whole buttload of college basketball games in this game. So that experience should cross over quite a bit. But I like where I see it going wrong is Justin Moore, with his Achilles injury. He was such a big part of Nova's team, and Kansas is playing well. I don't see Nova being able to get over that hump.
Yeah, I mean, just in general, this whole tournament, there's more experience in this whole tournament than there's ever been. And that's why I think you saw a lot of the parity that you saw this year, more so than normal. And to your point, Carl, yeah, Kansas and Villanova are no different. They've got a lot of guys that have played a lot of games. The difference, Moore getting hurt hurts Villanova so bad when you're playing a team like Kansas because you need everybody. And I think Nova keeps this close, but I just don't think without Moore they have the firepower to score enough points. I think it'll be a close game throughout. I think Kansas pulls away late. They just have the more depth. They're healthier. But Villanova's done this before, and I'm not counting them out by any means. Like Carl said, they have a lot of experience too. So Nova's definitely in it. They can win it, but I'm taking Kansas.
Yeah, I think I agree with pretty much everything you said. Nova has Jay Wright. Jay Wright has proven over the last
One of the best.
7 years, 6 years to not count him out, not count his teams out. But Kansas is just so talented. They're deeper. I have to go with Kansas in this one as well. I think they're like 5 point. I think they're as big a favorites as Duke is. Honestly, they were like 4.5, 5 point favorites in this one as well. I would have to lean toward Kansas in this one.
Cody.
I'm going to go Kansas. I think it's going to be a great game.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good game, but
Never count out Jay Wright. He is absolutely one of the best, and not just recruiting coaches. He It seems like he always vacuums up all the guys that aren't your top 25 guys, but are still 4 or 5 star, high 3 star guys. He gets those mid-level guys, and then he gets them to play well together.
He develops them.
Yes, he is X's and O's and player development wise. Jay Wright is he's up there with the best. Hello, puppy. So I wouldn't, Bill. Look at the coaches we've got in this. We got Coach K, Jay Wright, Bill Self, 3 of the all-time greats, and then Hubert Davis, who's following in the footsteps of Roy Williams. I'm going to give the edge to Kansas just on talent level alone, but I'm not going to bet on it because I'd never bet against a Jay Wright team.
Nova has quietly put together a crazy strong school showing in the NCAA tournament. And it, you don't even really think about it, but they've won 2 of the last 5 national championships. And here they are.
They're there every year. 10 years straight, it seems like. They're right in the mix of it every year.
They're not, like Cody said, they're not flashy because they don't get those 5-star recruits. But Jay Wright has a good plan. He recruits well, 4 stars every year, and he just replaces the ones that leave. And something that makes them a little bit more quiet as they play in the Big East. The Big East, obviously Gonzaga gets a lot of credit for the conference they play in. Nova's quieter, but they're in the better conference, so they do get battle tested at times throughout the year. Mm-hmm. And Jay Wright's just a great player developer. I mean, he's proved it.
And another thing is Jay Wright always, on Jay Wright's roster, you will always find one older, true point guard. And we talk about that all the time. That wins in the NCAA tournament. Having a junior, senior guard that's been there, battle tested. It seems like Jay Wright always has 3 of them, but he's always got at least one guy that's reliable, that's solid, that takes care of the ball, and is a true point guard.
Real difference maker in the game, though. So Kansas has a guy off the bench averaging almost 17 points a game, Remy Martin.
6-year senior.
That is something you cannot replace. And, you just can't ask for more off the bench. Somebody averaging almost 17.
Shout out Remy's mom, though, for naming him Remy Martin. I'm a little mad that Roxy didn't name me Natural Light Stoneburner.
Bush latte.
Latte.
All right. So Kelsey obviously went UNC. The rest of us went Duke. So that puts it to the podcast of the Duke Kansas national title. Who do you see taking that national title? Coach K ride off into the sunset in New Orleans, go to Bourbon Street and just get mad hammered?
Said it from the start. Coach K, the basketball gods, Coach K's been good to the basketball gods in college basketball for 40 years now. The basketball gods are going to be good to Coach K. He's going to win this tournament. He's going to go, like you said, straight down to Bourbon Street. He's going to Urban Meyer the shit out of that after a party and ride off into the sunset.
I didn't say it from the start. I was pessimistic about Duke's chances, but I've seen a different Duke team in this tournament. So I've got to go with the Dukies. They're going to have to earn it, though. I mean, whoever wins this tournament is going to full-blown earn it this year.
So I think Kansas exists to just piss on people's hopes and dreams. So, anybody who's going to be rooting for Coach K, they can join the Kansas hating bandwagon with the rest of us after the national championship. So
it's going to be UNC over KU in the final. Hubert Davis is going to put Coach K away in the Final Four and start North Carolina's next venture off with the national championship. We're not going to have that bridge like we did between Roy Williams and Dean Smith. It's going to go straight from Roy Williams to Hubert Davis, and Hubert Davis is going to take off with it.
What's your real pick?
You didn't sound very, very confident in that assessment.
We'll see.
So, and we've talked about this on the podcast and in our group chat extensively with how crazy this tournament's been. You got St. Peter's, you've got all these like double-digit seeds making deep runs at the end of it all. Kansas, Duke, North Carolina, and Villanova, who's essentially a 2000s version of a blue blood. Like,
It's a new blood, yeah.
Yeah, new blood, yeah. Here we are. Crazy tournament, one of the most fun tournaments I can ever remember watching. And here we are. 3 blue
But
bloods and a new blood.
You've already said it, though. It's because of coaching.
Yeah.
That's what that comes down to. You've already said it. Like, that's why these teams are here every year is coaching.
Before the Elite Eight started, I said the Final Four could be Arkansas, St. Peter's, Miami, and Houston, or it could be Duke, North Carolina, Kansas, and Villanova. And of course, we went with Duke, Kansas, North Carolina, Villanova.
Yeah. Boy, Miami got thumped by Kansas in that Elite Eight.
Miami ran out of gas.
Yeah,
Oof.
they were up
You
at
could-
half too.
You
I
could
told
tell they
someone
just
asked
looked
me
like
how
they
that game was
lost a
going to
gear.
go, and I said Miami will keep it close, but Kansas will pull away at the end. I did not expect them to pull away like that. That second half was brutal.
Alrighty. So that finishes up the NCAA tournament. NFL's just been crazy with trades and free agency and all that. So I asked everybody to come up with 2 in case somebody steals your 1. I'm going to save my 1 for later because I really don't think anybody's going to take it. But somebody might feed into it. So who wants to start that?
I'll start off by saying this NFL offseason feels like an NBA offseason. Because, players in the NBA just do whatever they want. They demand trades. They go wherever they want. NFL, you don't usually see that. But NFL players getting more and more power as it goes on. I'll start off with my first one here. Both mine are similar in sense. But my first one is Deshaun Watson to the Browns. Okay. Ended up waiving his no trade clause to go to the Browns. Now, you've got guys like me who think Baker Mayfield is absolute trash. You've got guys like Kelsey who think he's pretty much elite.
I don't think he's elite. What are you talking about, bro? I do not think
But-
Baker Mayfield's elite.
April Fools.
Got him.
So here's the thing: is Baker Mayfield is either or not Baker Mayfield. Deshaun Watson is proven as an elite quarterback when he plays top 5-ish. You can right on the edge there. You could have him number 1, and I probably wouldn't argue it. But regardless, Deshaun Watson is the first Browns proven quarterback ever. Like, what you have with Deshaun Watson. You have an elite quarterback. So this comes down to what wins out. Finally having this all-star, elite, top-tier quarterback talent or being a poverty franchise. Which one is it going to be? Like, they have everything. There is no reason they don't make a deep playoff run here. With the addition of Amari Cooper, who I like Jarvis Landry, but Amari Cooper's probably better. And it just, what's it going to be for the Browns? Are they going to be a 9-8 team that maybe makes a wild card spot and loses in the first round? Or are they finally Super Bowl contenders?
I mean, yeah, Deshaun Watson does know how to run down defenses, but it's just one of those things that it just doesn't. It seems like a Browns move, doesn't it? Like, it just seems like a very Cleveland move to go get this guy with all this controversy. And yes, it could work out. Did it work out in Houston? So yeah, he was dealing with the idiot GM and coach that he was dealing with, but he had talent down there for a good long while. They had a good defense. Like, he didn't get it done there. What's going to change in Cleveland, who's notorious for just doing stupid things? So I don't know. Like, yeah, I do think Cleveland got a little better, but I don't see them getting any further in the playoffs than Baker Mayfield got them. That's even if they win their division. Like,
Winning their division
they might still be 3rd or 4th in their division.
easily could be.
Yeah.
I have to say something really funny before we get too far into this. Cody said he was the best Browns quarterback of all time, and the only person I could think of was Otto Graham from
Yeah,
the
Otto
60s.
Graham.
But I looked up best Browns quarterbacks of all time, and Tim Couch comes up as the 7th best quarterback in Cleveland history, if that tells you anything.
I mean, my opinion is I think the Browns made the right move. When Tim Couch is your 7th best quarterback in NFL history and your team history, if you have the chance to go get Deshaun Watson, you go get him. And yeah, it might not translate to a Super Bowl, but yeah, I think you could argue they're the favorite in this division. I think you could argue they're the fourth best team in this division. And I also like if the AFC West wasn't so stacked, I know the Steelers are, question marks at quarterback, but the Steelers always find a way to be competitive. Um, I think you could argue, I think this division right now, you could argue that any team can finish anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of good, good teams. Is there a true Super Bowl contender? I don't know. But the AFC North is going to be pretty interesting next year with this. I think it all comes down to does Desean get suspended? And I think that's what the Browns season comes down to this year. If he gets suspended for 8 games, it's almost like, a lost year because it'd be tough to lose 8 games and then come back and be Super Bowl ready by the time the playoffs hit. But
And
I think if you're the Browns, you definitely hats off. I think you definitely got to make this move.
for as much as I hate on Baker, Baker is a quality starting quarterback in the NFL. He's middle of the road, and whether they can get him to play or not, like I think he's probably gone. But their now backup is a starting quarterback in the NFL. I don't think it's going to work out like that. I don't think he'll play under the pretense that when Desean comes back from his suspension, whenever that may be, that Baker's going to lose his starting job. I think Baker's way too egotistical for that. But
I'm calling it now. Desean gets suspended for whatever games. Baker comes out, plays lights out, and the Browns have a quarterback controversy, and they screw it all up. Calling it right now.
Well, they also have Jacoby Brissett. So
I honestly don't know where Baker's going to go. They're holding on. Like, they need to trade him. Everyone's quarterback position is getting filled. They're holding on to him too long. What's going to end up happening is they're going to cut him, and the Steelers are going to sign him for the league minimum because he said he wanted to go there to beat the Browns.
They've tried trading Baker Mayfield, but teams are making the Browns throw in a draft pick, not the other way around. That's kind of funny.
Because he's due what, like 18 million or I don't know. It's 20-some million or something like that. I don't
they
think
need a new washing machine in Cleveland.
fax machine.
No,
So Kelsey, real quick, I looked up a list of the Chiefs' all-time QBs, and we have some explaining to do because if you don't count Joe Montana and Warren Moon, who just finished their career, our 7th best is Chad Henne. And
that's not true.
homie's here you go. I'm going to send this to
just rattle them off. I got my fingers ready.
Well, we've got
Mahomes,
you've already got your
Lynn Dawson, Trent Green, Alex Smith. There's your top 4. Then you have Joe Montana in 93, 94, Rich Gannon, 96 through 98, Steve DeBerg, 88 through 91, Warren Moon in 2000, Bill Kinney in 1980 to 1988, and then Chad Henne. Then after him is Matt Moore, Mike Livingston, Nick Foles.
Whoever made this list is lost. Like, the Chiefs weren't great with Elvis Gerbach, but he's done more in Kansas City than Chad Henne has.
Did he win an AFC championship game?
That was divisional round game, but
whatever.
He came in for a quarter and almost lost it.
Won it.
He won it.
He had that run. He had that run though.
So,
and the third is
Tyler. What about Palco? He was pretty good.
Yeah, we drafted Brody Croyle in the 3rd round at one time, and he was going to be
games did he
starter
lose?
of the future, and he was 0-8 as a starter. So
yeah, I just wanted to, throw that out there. Anyway,
trust me, I understand. We have not been a quarterback savvy franchise. No, as far as Deshaun Watson goes, it all comes down if he gets suspended or not. But it does seem like a Cleveland thing to do, trading for the guy who has sexual harassment hanging over his head.
And that's what I said about Baker Mayfield. Is Baker Mayfield's a very talented quarterback, but you draft the guy that's most closely resembles Johnny Manziel. Like
Johnny Manziel.
You go from Manziel to Mayfield. What a move!
Eventually, their moves are gonna pay off.
I'm guessing this is probably Cody's other.
You're gonna have a big finish.
One he was talking about because he said it was similar. Russell Wilson to the Broncos. Nope. Oh, okay. Well, Russell Wilson to the Broncos. AFC West, as if it wasn't already good enough. they go ahead and add who I think is, when he's healthy, is a top 5 quarterback. I know you guys think he's more closer to 10 or
Don't let me in.
He's
10
washed
or
up.
something,
He
but
washed up.
that I said all last year the Broncos were a quarterback away from being a very good football team. They have weapons. Unfortunately, they did have to trade one of their tight ends in that deal, but I mean, when you're getting a guy like Russell Wilson, you still have a good tight end there. Their defense is not as good as it used to be, but they're still a good defense. I think they're in the AFC West. It'll be tough because any team, all 4 of those teams might be Super Bowl contenders, with the exception of maybe the Raiders. I don't know, but I, I mean, it makes the Broncos a scary team,
Yeah, but
and they
like
weren't a scary team before that.
the Broncos won what 7 or 8 games last year. Let's not forget those first 3 were the Jets, the Jaguars, and the Giants. So I mean, yes, Russell Wilson makes that team better, obviously, but they still don't make the playoffs this year. It just doesn't happen.
Ooh, ooh.
The
I'm
I don't
Raiders
know
are
if
sad.
still
I
good.
don't
The
know if I agree
Raiders
with
are
that.
still good. The Chargers still good. The Chiefs are still good. It's
I think the
hard to take.
Raiders finished 4th in the division this year. I
It's
do.
hard to. Everybody said they'd finish third last year, and they ended up in the playoffs. So like
Well, they beat the Chargers in the last game of the season.
they won a
Chargers are
good
going to
game.
Chargers.
It's not like they outweighed that prediction by a long way, as they won in the last seconds of overtime.
Top 7 teams in the AFC last year.
And they'll
Just
probably be top 10 this year, but still finish 4th in the division. They might be
I'm just
top
saying,
7 and finish 4th in the
it's
division.
going to be hard for any division to take 4 teams to the playoffs, and the Broncos are at the bottom of our division. So that's just
No, I
where
do
I
agree
think
with that sentiment. This 4 teams going to the playoffs in one division is almost impossible because you'd have to split the games.
I'm with Carl. I mean, I think the Broncos are a fringe playoff team, but I mean, the only thing that they have going for them is they did finish last in the division last year, so they do get to play the Jaguars and the Jets. That's going to give them a slight advantage over the Raiders, a team like the Raiders who finished second. Um, but I don't know. Their offensive line issues last year, that was the main thing holding them back. Teddy Bridgewater played pretty well against the blitz last year and under pressure. And Russell Wilson, you know, he didn't play especially well last year with a bad offensive line. So, um,
He's
I
played pretty
think
well most of his career with a bad offensive line. He's had like the worst offensive line for the most of his career.
Wilson's going to be 33 years old next year. He's a small guy who's taken a lot of sacks in his career. And so I think you're starting to see Wilson. Wilson's not he's not going to be the same player he was at 27. I mean, he's going to have a shorter career than some of those other quarterbacks just due to the fact of his size and his, the amount of hits he's taken. Um, so I do think Russell Wilson makes them a potential playoff team. I, however, don't think it puts him in the conversation with the Chargers and the Chiefs. The Chargers have vastly improved, some positions on their team from last year.
Yeah, you like a little off topic, but Denver, their best part of their team is their DBs. They have elite DBs in Denver, so that might keep them in a few games. But so we've done 2 quarterbacks so far. Mine's not a quarterback. Kai, do you have a quarterback?
Go ahead, Carl.
All right. So I'm gonna play off a couple things here to get to the one I really want to talk about. Obviously, Tyreek Hill got traded. We're all aware of that. Everybody watches the news. Average annual value on his contract, $30 million. About a week before that, Devontae Adams got traded. Average annual value on his contract, $28 million. A little bit before that, Allen Robinson signed with the Rams for a 3-year deal with an average annual value of 15.5. What a steal by Los Angeles. Holy crap. There's not a team in the league that sees that contract and been like, damn, we should have probably done that. Like, that is banana lands how much value for the next 3 years that is.
Allen
Crazy.
Robinson's damn good too. I mean,
Yes. Banana lands.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I have no disagreement here. I think we touched on it a little bit in our group chat when he signed that and how Devontae Adams was negotiating his deal. I mean,
The
Kudos
Rams,
to the Rams. They keep hitting time and time again.
in 5 years, the Rams are going to be the worst team in NFL history. Worst team. Like, where are they coming up with all this money?
Everyone, we keep saying that, but if you look at their draft picks, yes, they don't have first and second round picks, but they keep drafting starters in late rounds. Like they drafted Taylor Rapp, they draft these guys that are Tyler Higbee, they drafted him. If you draft starters and pay stars, like you're setting yourself up for success. And
Yeah.
they're drafting starters. It's later in the draft, but they're drafting starters.
And even if they are the worst franchise in the NFL in 5 years, they might have 3 rings to show for it in those 5 years. I mean, I mean, that's the whole goal of sports is to win. It's what the Lakers are suffering from right now. They sold out to win a ring. They got that ring. Now they're trash. And they're going to have to rebuild eventually post LeBron. But I mean, that's the goal. If they don't go all out and win rings, their fans are going to be mad. They go all out and win rings now, and in 5 years, they're horrible, which they may not be. Like you said, they may keep hitting on draft picks and be just fine. But even if they are bad in 5 years, their fans are going to be mad. Like, it's whatever. Go ahead and get your rings now. Sell out that stadium, that brand new stadium.
I agree. Like I don't know how they keep trading picks and hitting, but I mean, I went back through some of their draft picks in the last few rounds, and they just they hit on almost every pick. And when you're paying stars and hitting on picks, I mean, it's hard to suffer, really. I mean, I don't know where your downfall is going to be.
You don't hit on those picks every year. So it's great that they hit on those picks right now as they're signing all these stars, and they have a chance to repeat. Or one of the best chances to repeat as champs. I guess the Chiefs had a good chance. Repeats are hard to do, but I think the Rams have as good a chance as anybody have had. One of the things I look at, kind of some under the radar moves in free agency. You could argue, that there's a lot of talk about the Chiefs and the Chargers, and you could argue that the two best teams in the AFC next year are going to be the Bengals and the Bills. The Bengals won the AFC this year, and with their biggest weakness is an offensive line. They've signed 3 offensive line starters, and they haven't really lost much on defense. So the Bengals have set themselves up to be Super Bowl contenders. The Bills as well, getting Von Miller and Jamison Crowder. First off, pass rush from Von Miller, something that's only going to bolster that defense. And they lost Cole Beasley, but they gained Jamison Crowder. I'll take that as a win for the Bills. And the Bills are looking scary next year. Bills and Bengals both. I think there's about 10 teams in the AFC looking scary, but if I had to choose right now, Bengals and Bills are at the top of the, potentially at the top of the AFC pecking order right now for next
I
year.
am very much with you on the Bills. I think the only team that beats the Bills next year is the Bills. They have a bunch of injuries or something like that. Like Buffalo is going to be scary freaking good next year.
The
So
only the only thing I'll say about the Bills, you're not wrong. They gave Von Miller 6 years, 120 million, and Von Miller looked great in the playoffs, but he did not look good during the regular season. And if you're giving a guy 6 years, 120 million, you're expecting him to play every down, and you do that, he won't be ready. He won't be there in the playoffs.
I don't think I think they're expecting him to rest and be ready for the playoffs and be Von Miller in the playoffs. They know that they had a
You're giving
roster.
a guy a lot of money to play part-time football. Then
get to play the Jets twice.
They have a roster that's going to put them in the playoffs, whether they have Von Miller or not.
Jets twice.
They're not going to overuse Von Miller in the regular season, no matter how much money they paid him.
Yeah, I mean, I picked the Bills last year, and the Bills have gotten better. They're probably going to be my Super Bowl pick again this year.
The Bengals, I agree with too. They definitely shored up their offensive line. I don't even know if the Bengals are the best team in their division. If Lamar Jackson stays healthy last year, I think the Ravens probably win that division. And assuming the Ravens' whole team doesn't get injured this year, it's not going to be easy for the Bengals to win that division.
I do also see that the Bengals kind of caught lightning in a bottle this year a little bit, and it might regress a little. They're still going to be very competitive and very good, but they might regress just a little bit.
I agree. There's a lot of unknown. I would agree with that. I think there's a lot of unknown in the AFC North in general. I think all 4 teams could be not very good, and all 4 teams could be, well, not great. I think the Bengals, are the one. Bengals and Ravens would be the 2 most likely Super Bowl contenders, but I think there's
And
a lot of unknown with every team in that division.
On paper, there's like 11 playoff teams in the AFC this year. So,
well, and back to the Bills is for years the Bills have finished second and third in their division because the Patriots have been the Patriots and the Dolphins have had a couple of good years in there. But this upcoming year, they're playing Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, and left-handed Mac Jones 6 times. So, like, they've got a pretty easy division this year. So
Hey, everyone's freaking out about the Dolphins' speed.
Yeah, and I know we're getting pretty close on time here, but that was my other thing. This is Tua's make or break year. Like
oh yeah,
the Dolphins are doing what they're doing to see if Tua is the guy or not. That's all this year boils down to. If they don't make the playoffs and potentially win a game or 2, he's gone.
he is on the hottest of seats.
Yeah.
You know what's unfortunate for Miami, in my opinion? They probably will make the playoffs, and they'll probably hold on to Tua, and that's going to be where they went wrong because Tua's not the guy to get him the Super Bowl.
The Dolphins are going awful all in for having Tua as their quarterback.
Exactly. That's how I feel too.
Alrighty. So I'm going to leave everybody with something that you couldn't wipe the smile off my face all day about this week was Albert Pujols re-signing with the Cardinals. That was just, it made me all warm and tingly inside. Like, I was trying to explain it to my wife how much that meant to me. Like, that's just my childhood wrapped up with the number 5. Like, you'd go to baseball practice and everybody's like, look, I'm Pujols with that squatted down back. Like, it's just, there's no explaining it. I'm so happy they did it. He could play in 5 games. I don't care. Like, it's still good that this is his last year right off with the Cardinals. Get, his well-deserved year-long jersey swap gifts and all that stuff. Like, so happy for him that he signed with the St. Louis. But
I agree more.
think that's where we're going to leave you. Like I said, this was my last podcast for you guys. So, it's been fun. We've done, 50 episodes or so? Are we 50?
52, 53, 52, I think.
Somewhere in there. So it's been a fun ride, but, just time to move on to other things. So till then, you guys be good out there. Peace. Tell your grandma.
Tell your grandma.
See you later.